Ludwig Boltzmann. When was Maxwell born, by the way?
He was born in 1831.
Okay, so yours is a little earlier. So Ludwig Boltzmann was born in 1844, actually. It's a little different date there. And he was born in Vienna. Yeah, so he's an Austrian physicist that, he's basically an Austrian physicist. He wasn't really in a family of scientists or anything crazy like that. His father, I believe, was simply like a tax agent collector, something like that. So it wasn't like a rooted in science kind of families where it started, right? And it simply happened that a couple of years later, he simply enrolled himself into mathematics and a mathematics and physics program at the University of Vienna. And just continued with that. And again, in this time, like the 1800s, Parker and I were talking about this just before the episode, people got into university relatively soon.
Yeah.
Like relatively soon. Now, I guess, there are some people that, started at 14 and 15 and stuff like that. And Boltzmann got his PhD by the age of 22, right? So he was a full doctorate level scientist at the age of 22. Now, in this whole endeavor of his of studying at the University of Vienna, the director of the physics of the physics faculty was none other than Joseph Stefan. Now, Stefan, if maybe don't recognize that name, maybe the Stefan Boltzmann law, may have heard of that.
Oh.
That might have got something for you. The Stefan Boltzmann constant, another big one. So again,
isn't that the same thing
yeah,
though?
No. The Stefan Boltzmann law is a law. The Stefan Boltzmann constant
but it's in the law.
It's a constant in the law. But I'm just saying that's probably where you've heard the name Stefan from. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so while Boltzmann was working, while he was in university, I'm assuming he simply got close to the director. So he got close to Stefan, and they began working together after. And actually, his very first job, or one of the big ones at another university in another country, he got because Stefan had sent in a letter of recommendation. And he had said, hey, he's definitely good. And the interesting thing about Boltzmann in his, or at least personal lifestyle, is that he was very erratic individual. He kept bouncing back and forth between jobs, like 1 or 3 years. He used to be like professor at certain universities, to the point where, this is a little funny, to the point where I believe it was the Austrian emperor at the time that wouldn't give Boltzmann a job at the university that he was applying to because of how erratic because he was like, you're just going to leave again. What's the point? So I need a guarantee that you're going to stay here, kind of thing. And that was, I just find that a little funny that he was so into it that he just kept going back and forth. Again, not too sure why. I'm just assuming maybe just wanted different experiences, but that's up to him. And in this whole trip, right, where I guess he's doing a lot of things here and there, is also where he formulated a better relationship with Stefan. He formulated better relationships and was talking to a lot of the famous physicists at the time. I don't believe he ever directly spoke with Maxwell. I could be mistaken, but I think it was just their knowledge.
They were studying the same, they weren't only studying one thing, right? But they were both studying at the same time the kinetic theory of noble gases.
Well, it started with ideal gases.
Ideal.
So all is ideal, right? That's how the math always starts, and then you simply generalize it. So it was the kinetic theory of gases was originated. There's so many people that actually thought about it. Yeah. It's just that Boltzmann actually put it on paper and succinctly stated what it is, what the relationship is. And then I believe Maxwell's, again, equations come into it because, again, they simply assist the proof. But again, I don't think there was ever any like, hey, Maxwell, how you doing? Kind of thing between the both of them. So that's a little bit of Boltzmann's history. I don't think I'm missing anything big. If I do, I'll maybe butt in, but I think that's basically it.
All right.
Let's listen
a little bit about Maxwell. So James Clerk Maxwell.
One thing, sorry, I just forgot.
Oh my.
Sorry. One thing I just wanted to mention that I found really sweet about Boltzmann. Very nice individual. Not that I knew, but his wife not at the time, but so at the time, women becoming, going into science, going into like professorship, not really heard of, like almost like not even allowed to the point. And there was this woman, Henriette, who was applying for the math and physics, and Boltzmann at the time, I'm assuming they may have started a relationship together of some sort, and he had appealed for her to get into the program, and she got in because of him.
Oh.
And then they ended up getting married right after. So I just found that really cool. A little more extra part in his life.
That's fun.
You can go. Let's hear a little bit about Maxwell.
So James Clerk Maxwell, he was born on a summer day of 18, I was about to say 19, 1831 in Edinburgh in Scotland. He was a Scottish man, okay? Nice. So let's just say that his family was comfortable, okay? When he was a young boy, okay, they moved on, they built an estate, his family, his parents, on a 1,500-acre plot of land, okay? Oof. So he had space. Oof. He had room to explore, a little section of the earth to himself, okay? And fun fact, his dad's name, or his family name, is actually not Maxwell. It's his dad's name is John Clerk. He added Maxwell to the end of his name after he inherited a property that was from a Maxwell.
Oh.
So he inherited a property, and he said, you know what?
How would he inherit from a Maxwell, though? Like,
I don't know the details.
That's so weird.
But he literally inherited an estate, a Maxwell property, and he put the Maxwell on his name. So James Clerk Maxwell, the Maxwell equations, could have actually been called the Clerk equations, but
wow,
little fun fact.
That would have been very different.
Little fun fact.
Very different life there.
So James was actually, should I call him Maxwell? Or
I think
James?
you should call him Maxwell. I think James.
So okay, Maxwell, when he was a kid, obviously he was good in school, but surprisingly, well, I don't know if this is surprising, but he was actually really good in English and poetry.
No, that is surprising.
And he could actually, he memorized the book of Psalm from the Bible. And you could like ask him like, what is chapter this, verse this? And he could just recite it to you.
Cool.
Yeah. He did that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
When he was a kid, like literally when he was like 10 or even younger than that. Actually, when he was younger than that, because his mom died in 1839. And it was his mom that was like supervising his church studies. So that's crazy. He had a crazy memory, I guess. And he was actually really good in school, but he never really like fit in. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like an Einstein situation, but not really, because he would still get good grades, but he was just very smart to the point where like he needed, he actually had a tutor, and the tutor was garbage. So they got rid of the tutor. And when he was actually 16 years old, well, he went to like this private school when he was younger than that. And he got a bunch of prizes for English, poetry. And he actually started, when he was 14, he wrote his first paper. He was still in like, when you're 14, He was
14 when he wrote his first paper?
He wrote a paper on mathematical curves and ellipses, curves with two foci.
Who even thinks of this at 14?
He was drawing curves and writing papers at the age of 14, and this actual paper he couldn't publish himself because people thought he was literally too young. So he got his tutor, not the garbage one, a good one. He got a tutor to actually present it to the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and it got picked up after that. He couldn't just go and do it himself, but he was 14, and he actually went to university at the age of 16. And guess what? He was taking, at the time, all the scientists were into like psychology, natural philosophy, as well as mathematics and physics. So he was taking those courses, and it was actually very easy for him. His course load was said to be light, and he had a lot of free time to study on his own. Okay, and so by the time he was 18, he actually contributed to 2 more papers. 18 years old. Think about that. Okay, and he was actually interested, or getting interested, while he was at the University of Edinburgh. By the way, I didn't mention that, but that's the university he went to. He actually had the opportunity to go to Cambridge after his first year, but he denied that opportunity and decided to stay and finish his studies at the University of Edinburgh. So while he was studying there, not his main focus, but one of his interests was the properties of polarized light, which is actually one of the keys to get into the door of quantum mechanics. But at the time, it wasn't even.
Yeah. Remember, quantum mechanics was a thing like early 1900s.
No,
not even middle.
I know.
I'm not saying against you. I'm just saying in general. Like what? Early, middle, mid 1900s, right?
Early 1900s.
Early-ish 1900s.
Well, Planck was late 1800s.
Yeah, valid.
So depends on what you call the start. But yeah.
Valid. No, yeah.
Like black body radiation is pretty much the start. So anyways, the point is that he was interested in like topics that would unlock quantum mechanics, but it wasn't even there. You know what I mean? It wasn't even possible to start thinking about those topics, but he was still in that medium, I guess.
Mm-hmm.